self-awareness is the foundation of Stoicism. Before we can control our reactions to life's challenges, we must first understand ourselves, our thoughts, emotions, and motivations. Most of us go through life reacting on autopilot, letting external events dictate our moods and behaviors. But Stoicism teaches that true power comes from within. The more we understand our inner world, the better equipped we are to shape our responses to the external one. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. If you're unaware of your own fears, insecurities, or biases, you'll be tossed around by the winds of circumstance, reacting impulsively and emotionally. But when you cultivate self-awareness, you become like a deeply rooted tree, grounded, steady, and in control. By developing the ability to observe yourself objectively, you create space between stimulus and response, allowing you to act with wisdom rather than impulse. Epictetus famously said, "We may not have control over external circumstances, but we always retain the power to choose our responses." This idea is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The world is unpredictable. People will disappoint you, plans will fall apart, and difficulties will arise. But none of these things have the power to disturb you unless you allow them to. The key is awareness. When you recognize your automatic reactions, whether it's anger, frustration, or anxiety, you gain the power to change them. For the Stoics, self-awareness was a safeguard against emotional turmoil. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to examine his thoughts and strip away unnecessary judgments. Seneca emphasized the importance of daily reflection, urging people to review their actions and emotions each night to ensure they were living in alignment with wisdom and virtue. By practicing self-awareness, we can catch destructive patterns before they take over and replace them with responses that serve us better. So how do we cultivate self-awareness in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Mindful journaling. Writing is one of the most powerful tools for self-discovery. Dedicate a few minutes each day to journaling about your thoughts, emotions, and reactions to events. Ask yourself, what emotions did I experience today? What triggered them? How did I respond? Over time, patterns will emerge, helping you understand what drives your behavior. 2. Self-reflection. Throughout the day, pause and examine your reactions. If something frustrates you, ask, why did this bother me? Is my response helping or harming me? What could I have done differently? This simple habit of questioning your own mind can prevent impulsive reactions and lead to more thoughtful decisions. 3. Feedback from others. Sometimes we are blind to our own shortcomings. Seeking honest feedback from trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues can provide valuable insights. Ask them how you react in stressful situations or what patterns they've noticed in your behavior. Often, an outside perspective can reveal things we overlook in ourselves. 4. Meditation and mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness allows you to observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them. Even 5 to 10 minutes a day of sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, and noticing your thoughts without judgment can train you to become more aware of your inner dialogue. The more aware you are, the less control your emotions will have over you. The benefits of self-awareness are profound. When you understand your emotions and impulses, you gain the ability to respond rather than react. This leads to better decision-making as you're not acting out of anger or fear, but from a place of clarity. Emotional control becomes easier because you recognize when feelings arise and can choose how to handle them. Stress no longer dominates your life because you learn to separate what you can and cannot control. By cultivating self-awareness, you take the first step toward mastering yourself. The more you observe your mind, the more control you gain over it. And as you refine this skill, you'll find that life's challenges no longer shake you as they once did. Instead, you'll navigate them with wisdom, patience, and inner peace. The human mind is like a restless monkey, constantly jumping from thought to thought, swinging between worries about the future and regrets about the past. This mental chatter, often referred to as the monkey mind, can leave us feeling anxious, distracted, and emotionally exhausted. Instead of being present in the moment, We get caught up in endless loops of overthinking, self-doubt, and negativity. The Stoics recognized this as a major source of human suffering. Seneca, in particular, warned about the dangers of an undisciplined mind, saying, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Our fears and anxieties often have little to do with what is actually happening. They are products of an overactive, untrained mind. Marcus Aurelius also advised against allowing the mind to be harassed by trivial worries, urging us to maintain control over our thoughts, rather than be controlled by them. The more restless and unfocused the mind, the more we struggle with unnecessary stress. But when we learn to quiet the mind, we gain clarity, focus, and peace. One of the most effective ways to tame the mind monkey is through mindfulness, the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. While we often associate mindfulness with Eastern philosophies, it was also a core practice of the Stoics. Epictetus taught that we should always be aware of our thoughts, questioning them rather than blindly accepting them. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to return to the present, knowing that much of our suffering comes from dwelling on things beyond our control. When we train the mind to focus on the now, we free ourselves from the constant mental noise that fuels stress and anxiety. This doesn't mean we ignore our responsibilities or never think about the future. It means we stop letting our thoughts control us. A disciplined mind sees things clearly, allowing us to respond to life rationally rather than react impulsively. So how do we quiet the mind and cultivate this kind of mental discipline? Here are some practical techniques for taming the mind monkey. 1. Breath awareness. The simplest way to calm the mind is to focus on your breath. Whenever you feel overwhelmed or notice your thoughts racing, take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and slowly exhale. Repeat this a few times, paying full attention to the sensation of breathing. This grounds you in the present moment and interrupts the cycle of overthinking. 2. Body scan. Often, mental tension manifests as physical tension. A body scan helps you become aware of any stress you're holding in your muscles. Close your eyes and slowly bring your attention to different parts of your body, from your toes to the top of your head. If you notice any tightness or discomfort, consciously relax that area. This practice not only relieves physical stress, but also strengthens your ability to stay present. 3. Mindful engagement in daily activities. Bring mindfulness into your everyday routine by fully engaging in whatever you're doing. If you're washing dishes, focus on the sensation of the water and the movement of your hands. If you're walking, pay attention to the feeling of your feet hitting the ground. By practicing presence in small, ordinary moments, you train your mind to be more focused and less prone to wandering. 4. Self-inquiry. The Stoics were big on self-examination. Whenever you notice your mind running wild, pause and ask yourself, "What am I thinking? Why am I thinking this? Is this thought helping me?" This habit allows you to take control of your thoughts instead of letting them control you. Over time, you'll develop a natural ability to filter out unhelpful mental chatter. By taming the mind monkey, you unlock a new level of mental clarity, focus, and emotional control. A calm mind is a powerful mind. It sees situations objectively, makes better decisions, and is far less susceptible to stress and negativity. Instead of being carried away by endless thoughts, you gain the ability to choose where to direct your attention. Imagine navigating life with a quiet, focused mind, one that doesn't get lost in anxiety or distraction, but remains present, clear, and steady. That's the power of mastering your thoughts. And once you gain control over your mind, you gain control over your life. Most people view emotions as obstacles, something to suppress, fight against, or control. But the Stoics saw emotions differently. Rather than enemies, emotions are messengers, signals that provide valuable insights into our thoughts, values, and desires. The key is not to let emotions rule us, but to understand them, learn from them, and respond wisely. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, believed that emotional control was not about eliminating emotions, but about choosing how to engage with them. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that while we may not always control the emotions that arise within us, we always have control over how we interpret and respond to them. Imagine someone cutting you off in traffic. Your immediate emotional reaction might be anger, frustration, or resentment. The Stoic approach isn't to suppress that anger or pretend it doesn't exist. It's to pause, recognize the feeling, and ask, is this reaction useful? Does it serve me? This small moment of awareness is the difference between being controlled by emotions and using them to your advantage. The Stoics did not advocate for repressing emotions, but for understanding them. Seneca argued that emotions become dangerous when they are left unchecked and allowed to control our actions. However, when we analyze our emotions and understand their roots, they become a source of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius echoed this sentiment in Meditations, saying, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." In other words, our emotions are not inherently good or bad. It is how we think about them that shapes our experience. So how can we apply this Stoic wisdom to befriend our emotions rather than fear or suppress them? Here are some practical steps. 1. Acknowledge your emotions. The first step to mastering emotions is simply recognizing them. Instead of reacting impulsively, pause and name the emotion you're experiencing. I feel angry. I feel anxious. I feel disappointed. Studies show that labeling emotions helps diminish their intensity, making them easier to process. 2. Self-inquiry and reflection. Once you've identified the emotion, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is this emotion trying to tell me? If you feel frustrated at work, perhaps it's a sign that you value efficiency and fairness. If you feel jealous, it may indicate that you desire something more for yourself. Every emotion contains information. By listening to them rather than suppressing them, you gain deeper self-awareness. 3. Reframe negative emotions. The Stoics were masters of reframing. Instead of seeing anger, sadness, or frustration as weaknesses, they saw them as opportunities for growth. For example, instead of thinking, I'm so nervous about this presentation, I must not be confident, a Stoic might reframe it as, this nervousness shows I care about doing well. How can I use this energy to prepare better? By changing the way you interpret emotions, you take control over how they impact you. 4th, practice mindfulness and acceptance. Many people try to resist difficult emotions, but resistance only strengthens them. Instead, practice observing your emotions without judgment. When you feel sadness, frustration, or fear, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is just an emotion. It will pass. Emotions are like waves. They rise, peak, and eventually subside. Accepting them as part of the human experience makes them far less overwhelming. Befriending your emotions leads to greater emotional resilience, self-acceptance, and personal growth. When you understand and work with your emotions rather than against them, you gain control over your reactions, make better decisions, and experience a deeper sense of inner peace. Imagine a life where emotions no longer dictate your actions, where you can feel anger without being consumed by it, experience sadness without feeling lost, and handle stress without being overwhelmed. That is the power of Stoic emotional mastery. Instead of being at the mercy of your emotions, you become their guide, using them as tools for wisdom, strength, and self-improvement. Most people try to avoid adversity at all costs, seeing it as an obstacle to happiness. But the Stoics had a completely different perspective. They believed adversity was not something to be feared, but rather an essential part of personal growth. Instead of running from difficulties, they taught that we should embrace them as opportunities to strengthen our minds and refine our character. Seneca put it best when he said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Just as muscles grow stronger through resistance, our minds and spirits grow more resilient through challenges. Every hardship we face, whether it's failure, loss, or unexpected setbacks, has the potential to shape us into stronger, wiser individuals. The key is how we choose to interpret and respond to these struggles. The Stoics understood that hardship is an unavoidable part of life. No one, no matter how powerful or wise, can escape difficulty. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who faced constant war, political betrayal, and personal loss, reminded himself daily that obstacles were simply part of existence. Rather than wishing for an easy life, he accepted that challenges are what forge greatness. Adversity builds mental toughness. When we face and overcome challenges, we develop resilience, the ability to endure discomfort, failure, and uncertainty without breaking. Epictetus, who was born a slave and later became one of the most influential Stoic teachers, believed that external hardships were the ultimate test of our inner strength. He taught that by embracing adversity, we gain control over ourselves and learn to remain unshaken no matter what life throws at us. So how do we start seeing adversity as an ally rather than an enemy? Here are some practical steps. 1. Reframe challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" shift your mindset to, "What is this teaching me?" Every setback is an opportunity to develop patience, perseverance, or wisdom. If you lose your job, it's a chance to reinvent yourself. If you go through a painful breakup, it's an opportunity to grow emotionally and understand yourself better. By shifting your perspective, you turn obstacles into stepping stones. 2. Build mental resilience. The best way to prepare for life's big challenges is by intentionally exposing yourself to small ones. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, choosing to endure minor hardships to build resilience. This could mean taking cold showers, fasting occasionally, or pushing yourself in uncomfortable situations. These small acts train your mind to handle bigger difficulties with composure. 3. Reflect on adversity. After facing a challenge, take time to reflect. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this experience? How did it shape me? The Stoics believe that self-reflection turns suffering into wisdom. If you keep a journal, write about the hardships you've faced and how they have contributed to your growth. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns, evidence that every difficulty has made you stronger. When we embrace adversity instead of resisting it, we develop an unshakable mindset. Life no longer feels like a series of unfortunate events beyond our control, but rather a training ground for self-mastery. Challenges no longer break us, they refine us. Think of the strongest, most admirable people you know. Chances are, they didn't become that way by living an easy life. They became strong because they faced hardship and used it as fuel for growth. By adopting the Stoic mindset, you too can turn life's difficulties into opportunities for transformation. When adversity comes knocking, don't run from it. Welcome it. It is the fire that forges the strongest steel. One of the greatest sources of frustration in life is trying to control things that are simply not within our power. We stress over what others think of us, get frustrated by unexpected events, and waste energy trying to force outcomes that are beyond our influence. The Stoics recognized this as a major cause of suffering, which is why they developed one of their most powerful teachings, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus summed it up perfectly. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond. This simple yet profound idea divides life into two categories. 1. Things we can control. Our thoughts, actions, responses, and efforts. 2. Things we cannot control. Other people's opinions, external events, the past, the future, and anything outside of our direct influence. When we focus on what we can control, we empower ourselves. But when we fixate on what we can't control, we set ourselves up for unnecessary suffering. The key to peace and resilience lies in knowing the difference. Many people struggle with the need to control everything, believing that if they just try hard enough, they can force life to go their way. But this illusion of control leads to stress, anxiety, and frustration. The reality is, no matter how much we plan, unexpected challenges will arise. People will disappoint us. Circumstances will change. Trying to control the uncontrollable is like trying to hold on to sand. It only slips through our fingers, leaving us exhausted. The Stoics understood that a true power comes from within. Instead of wasting energy fighting the inevitable, they embraced the idea that the only thing we truly own is our response to what happens. When we accept this, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and begin to focus on what actually matters: our actions, our mindset, and our personal growth. So how can we put this Stoic principle into practice? Here are some practical steps. 1. Daily reflection on control. Each morning or evening, take a few minutes to reflect. What is within my control today? What is outside of my control? By actively identifying what you can influence, you train your mind to focus on productive efforts rather than wasting energy on things you can't change. To let go of the uncontrollable. Whenever you find yourself stressed about something outside of your control, remind yourself, this is not mine to control. If someone is rude to you, you can't control their behavior, but you can control your response. If a situation doesn't go as planned, you can't change the outcome, but you can adapt and move forward. Practicing this mindset shift consistently leads to greater emotional freedom. Action versus reaction. When faced with a difficult situation, pause and ask yourself, am I reacting emotionally, or am I taking intentional action? Instead of letting external events dictate your mood and behavior, choose responses that align with your values. This practice helps you maintain control over yourself, even when the world around you feels chaotic. Focusing on what you can control leads to less stress, greater mental clarity, and a stronger sense of inner peace. When you stop worrying about things beyond your influence, you conserve your energy for what truly matters: your growth, your actions, and your well-being. Imagine living a life where external events no longer shake you, where setbacks don't define you, and where you face every challenge with calm and confidence. This is the power of mastering the dichotomy of control. When you fully embrace this principle, you no longer feel like a victim of circumstances. You become the master of your own mind and life. Throughout this journey, we've explored 5 powerful Stoic lessons that can transform the way you navigate life. Cultivating self-awareness allows you to understand your thoughts and emotions, giving you the power to respond rather than react. Taming the mind helps you quiet mental chatter and stay focused in the present. Befriending your emotions teaches you that feelings are not enemies but valuable guides. Embracing adversity shifts your perspective, showing you that challenges are not obstacles but opportunities for growth. And finally, focusing on what you can control frees you from unnecessary stress, allowing you to direct your energy where it truly matters. Each of these lessons is a step toward self-mastery. The more you practice them, the more resilient, composed, and wise you become. Stoicism isn't about denying life's hardships or emotions. It's about developing the inner strength to handle them with grace. By applying these principles, you gain control over your mind, emotions, and actions, no longer feeling at the mercy of external circumstances. But self-mastery isn't something you achieve overnight. Stoicism is a lifelong practice, not a quick fix. Even the greatest Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, worked daily to refine their thoughts and actions. Some days will be harder than others. You will still experience frustration, fear, and doubt. But the key is to persist. Growth happens not in giant leaps, but in small, consistent steps. Each time you reflect instead of react, embrace rather than resist, and focus rather than worry, you reinforce the Stoic mindset. So where do you begin? Start small. Pick one principle, perhaps journaling for self-awareness or practicing breath control to tame the mind, and commit to it daily. Observe how your perspective shifts. Over time, these practices will become second nature, helping you move through life with greater clarity, confidence, and peace. Remember, Stoicism isn't just about surviving life's difficulties. It's about thriving in the face of them. It's about using every challenge as fuel for growth and becoming the master of yourself. No matter what life throws your way, you have the power to choose your response. And in that choice lies true freedom. Now take what you've learned and start applying it. Master yourself, and you will master your life.